It's been 1 week since most Charleston carriage companies had to shut down and take their horses and mules off the streets due to the heat. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sat down one-on-one with Tommy Doyle Jr. of Palmetto Carriage Works one-on-one. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. Tommy Doyle Jr. It's so good to see you.
Quintin, great to see you.
As always.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So obviously you are the general manager here at Palmetto Carriage Works.
I am.
And I know that last week you all had some interruption in your service of business related to the city shutting down your business because of the heat.
Sure.
What is the biggest difference between last week and this week in your mind?
Probably 10 degrees. Yeah, no, it's we knew that the heat, I guess for lack of better words, the heat wave was coming.
Okay.
And you know, we do the scheduling and we prepare in anticipation of those closures. When the rules are followed like they're supposed to, it works great for everybody. It works for the employees, it works for the management team, it works great for the animals as well.
You talk about those rules. Have the rules been followed by a lot of people recently in your mind?
You know, oh boy, put me on the spot. You know, I think the rules that we have in place, you know, I'll sort of leave it at that. When they're followed the way they're supposed to, the way that they're outlined in the ordinance, they work great. It is concerning if somebody or an entity decides not to follow the rules. It could be concerning. But, you know, the rules for most of last week were followed the way they were supposed to, and all the animals were off the street at the appropriate time.
Yeah. How are the horses and mules cared for in your mind?
Well, they're cared for very well. You know, when we work, I mean, when they're here in the city, they have the benefit of care all of the time. You know, when the animals are working, their body temperature is taken every hour. So we know exactly what the effect of the heat is on those animals. And, you know, I wonder how many pasture horses you see out there having their animal or their temperatures taken every hour. They're offered water for 15 minutes every hour. When they're in their stall, they have free choice water, as much water as they can possibly drink, along with people that know the animals, keeping an eye on and watching.
You talk about those temperatures. What is the horse's internal temperature in your mind?
Well, the average internal temperature for a horse is right around 100. I think if you Google it, you'll see 99.8 to anywhere to 100.1. So right around, I tell people right around 100 degrees.
100 degrees. Obviously, people talk a lot on Facebook and social media about the asphalt, but a lot of people don't know that, hey, the horses and mules actually have rubber shoes to deal with that.
Yeah, they have the rubber shoes, and that's really for the protection of their feet, and there's also the protection of the street. That it'll tear the street up. You know, and as far as what people talk about with the heat off of the asphalt, you know, what I do is I look at where the animals work, and when they're working, they're not. Most of their time is spent on shady streets. Actually, you know where most of a downtown carriage horse time is spent? In a barn. If you look at the number of hours that they work, the number of hours that they spend, most of it is spent inside of the barn. You know, are there spots on the street where they do go through the sun and it probably is a little warmer? Probably. But if you look at our tour routes, most of the route is not in the blazing sun. It's going to go down side streets that are shaded and out of the beating down sun.
And a lot of people don't know that most of it, when the actual carriage leaves the barn, they go right to the city gate, and that's where they get their marching orders, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, so that's where when the carriage leaves the barn, it'll go over to the city gate, and the city official will issue them a medallion for their touring, and then their clicker so they can mark their manure and their peace fills out there.
Peace fills. Now, what is the average workday for a horse or a mule?
So the animals can work up to 8 hours a day, just like you or me. That's a normal workday, 8 hours. But our herd last year averaged about 5 hours a day. You know, again, they can work 8, and when I say they can work 8, that's if they meet all the criteria. Their temperature isn't elevated, they get all the necessary breaks, they can work that 8 hours. Like I said, my herd about 5 hours.
5 hours. And what exactly is the city code for caring for animals?
Oh gosh, it's probably a half a dozen pages that outline the quality of feed that we have to feed them, the the level of the bedding in their stalls, how much bedding they have in there, to how much time off they get, where they spend that time off, to water consumption, electrolytes, vitamins. The ordinances. Charleston has the most comprehensive animal welfare ordinance anywhere in the country, in my opinion. There's no other city, to my knowledge, that has an equine manager. And this person's job is to do nothing but come into the barns and inspect the animals. And to my knowledge, there isn't another one of those anywhere in the country. And I think that, you need to look at the success of this program. And it has a 100% success rate. And I would challenge detractors to find me another city program that has a 100% success rate.
And if they were to come into the barn, what will they see here?
Our business and the way that we've set it up from day one is to be transparent. If somebody has a genuine concern and wants to come down and take a look at our animals, our place is open from roughly 6 in the morning till roughly 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And during normal business hours, anybody's welcome to come through our barn and take a look for yourself. I would encourage your viewers to do that. Rather than believe what you read on Facebook, something written nasty about me, or written nasty about my carriage company or one of my competitors. Take the time to come down and look for yourself.
And let me go back to last week again, because obviously a lot of people were talking about the heat guidelines. What are they?
Yeah, so we have to pull the animals off the street at 95 degrees. And that would be after 4 continuous readings of 95 degrees. What we found, and this is down 3 degrees from 2 years ago. It used to be 98, we've dropped down to 95. And what we ran into is when that temperature gets around 95, sometimes it'll 92, 95, maybe 96, 94. And it was the city's opinion, the industry's opinion, and even the meteorologist's opinion that in order to know what the reading is, you need 4 consecutive readings, 15 minutes apart. This wasn't some coup by the industry that just grabbed this out of the air. That's how you tell what the average temperature is. So once we get those 4 consecutive readings, we pull off the street.
And obviously when you talk about the readings, let me go back again to last week. When you looked at those readings, where did your mind go?
Well, we knew it was coming. I looked at the 7-day forecast and I could tell. And so I started scheduling more animals in the morning because I knew there would be a rush of people and business would be busier in the morning. And we made arrangements to move those animals out around 1 or 2 o'clock when we knew we'd be getting close, if not closed, at that point. We sent employees home with telling them to come back if it ever cooled off. We ended up reopening, I think, one evening when it did cool off enough.
Yes, sir. What else should we know about your particular company, Palmetto Carriage Works?
My family's done this a long time. I'm going to be 49 this year, and my first day on a carriage was my 5th birthday. And so I've been out here a long time doing this. And I take a lot of pride in what I do, and I love what I do. And, it bothers me, the bad things I read about me, the bad things I read about my family, the bad things I read about my company on social media, and people that they say about us. And, this isn't a woe is me. What this is I would love for people to come down, meet me, meet my family, and look at the great business and look at the service that we've provided visitors to Charleston pushing 50 years.
What is the biggest difference between 50 years ago and right now when you think of the carriage industry?
Yeah, so when I said my first day was on a carriage was my 5th birthday, it was down at the Battery.
Wow.
And my dad was driving. I rode along with him, and for those that remember Harry Wagner, he was the first commercial carriage operator, and I remember him as a kid. I used to ride around on his carriage around the Battery. Charlie Parker was around at that time as well. And the biggest difference is not necessarily the carriage industry, but it's the city as a whole. How it's transformed into the great destination that it is now. Or comparing 2019 to 1976, there's lots of changes. And my business has morphed as well, and definitely benefited from the transition that Charleston and the popularity that Charleston has had. But it was a different monster back down. And I think a lot of Charlestonians would agree with that.
Well, Tommy Doyle Jr., thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Hey man, thank you so much, bud. Appreciate
Thank you anytime.
Hey, bud.